I knew I'd never make it home that night. I stood in the parking garage staring at my car and just knew with absolute certainty that I wouldn't be sleeping in my own bed tonight. My name is Alex, and I'm not someone who believes in gut feelings or premonitions. But standing there at 9 p.m. after working late, I felt something I'd never experienced before. The drive home should have taken 20 minutes. I'd done it 1,000 times. But tonight felt different. I got in my car and started driving, taking my usual route through downtown. Everything looked normal. Traffic was light. The streets were familiar, but that feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. About 5 minutes into the drive, I noticed a black SUV behind me. Nothing unusual about that. Lots of black SUVs on the road. But it stayed exactly 3 car lengths back, matching my speed perfectly. When I changed lanes, it changed lanes. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd been watching too many crime shows. But then I tested it. I took a random right turn onto a side street I never used. The SUV followed. I made another turn, then another. Each time, the SUV stayed behind me, maintaining that same distance. My hands started sweating on the steering wheel. I tried calling my wife Emma, but the call wouldn't connect. I looked at my phone and saw I had full bars, but it just kept saying call failed. I tried again, same thing. That's when I noticed the other cars. A gray sedan had appeared in front of me. Another SUV was now on my left. They were boxing me in, herding me like cattle. But toward what? I tried to pull into a gas station, but the car on my left moved to block me. I accelerated to pass the sedan in front, but it sped up too. They were controlling where I could go without ever actually touching my car. My heart was pounding. I thought about running a red light, causing a scene, anything to get away, but they anticipated every move. When I slowed down, they slowed down. When I tried to exit, they blocked me. We drove like this for 15 minutes. I was nowhere near my house anymore. They'd steered me to an industrial area I didn't recognize. Warehouses and empty lots. No people, no other cars. The sedan in front suddenly stopped. I slammed on my brakes. The SUV behind me stopped too. We were at a railroad crossing with the arms down, but I could see there was no train coming. I threw my car in reverse, but the SUV was right there. No space to move. I was trapped between them. That's when a man stepped out of the gray sedan. He was wearing a suit, clean cut. He looked like a businessman, not some criminal. He walked toward my car slowly, hands visible, not threatening. He stopped at my window and gestured for me to roll it down. I didn't move. He pulled out a wallet and held up a badge. Federal agent. My mind raced, trying to understand what was happening. He said something I couldn't hear through the glass. I cracked the window an inch. He leaned in and spoke quietly. "We need you to come with us, Alex. Your house isn't safe right now. We've been watching you all week." I stared at him. Watching me? Why? He glanced back at the other vehicles, then at me. "Because 3 hours ago, someone broke into your home while Emma was there alone. We've had her in protective custody since 6 p.m. She's fine, but we need to move you now." My blood went cold. Emma. I grabbed my phone to call her again, but he shook his head. "Your phone's been compromised. That's why your calls aren't going through. The people who broke in have been tracking your location. We had to isolate your signal to get you here safely." Who broke in? What do they want? He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "That's what we need to talk to you about. Because based on what we found in your office computer, you might be the only person who knows." And that's when I realized the data breach at work wasn't random. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I stare at the federal agent through my car window, his words echoing in my head. The data breach at work wasn't random. It was about me, about something in my computer. "Who are you?" I ask, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "FBI Special Agent Marcos Hayes," he says, showing me his badge more clearly. "I need you to come with us now, Alex. We don't have much time." I glance at the vehicles surrounding me. There's no way out. And if what he's saying about Emma is true, where's my wife? I demand. "I want to see Emma right now." "She's safe," Agent Hayes assures me, "but we need to move. The people who broke into your house could be tracking us." I unlock my door, and he steps back, allowing me to exit. The moment I'm out, 2 more agents appear from the second SUV, flanking me as Hayes guides me toward the black vehicle that had been following me. "What about my car?" I ask. "We'll take care of it," Hayes says, opening the SUV's rear door. "Right now, your safety is our priority." As I slide into the back seat, Hayes joins me while another agent takes the wheel. Within seconds, we're moving, part of a 3-vehicle convoy speeding through the empty industrial area. "Tell me what happened to Emma," I say, gripping the seat as we take a sharp turn. "I need details, not vague assurances." Hayes nods, his expression grim. "At approximately 6 p.m., 3 armed individuals forced entry into your home. Emma was alone. Fortunately, she followed our emergency protocols." "Emergency protocols? What are you talking about? We don't have emergency protocols." "The panic button under your kitchen counter," Hayes says. "The one installed when your company took on certain government contracts." My mind reels. "What government contracts?" "I work for a data analytics firm. We process consumer behavior patterns for retail chains." Hayes gives me a look that makes my stomach drop. "That's one aspect of what your company does, yes." The convoy turns onto a highway ramp, accelerating to merge with sparse late-night traffic. I try to orient myself, but we're heading in an unfamiliar direction. "Your home was targeted specifically because of what you accessed at work yesterday," Hayes continues. "The breach was designed to locate certain files, and when you ran that new algorithm on the database, you inadvertently flagged classified information." I shake my head. "That's impossible. I was just debugging a pattern recognition system, a system that identified anomalies in what appeared to be retail purchasing data, but was actually a cover for tracking certain individuals of interest." We drive for another 20 minutes before turning into what looks like an abandoned warehouse district. The lead car approaches what appears to be a loading dock, but as we get closer, the entire concrete slab begins to descend, revealing a ramp leading underground. "Where are we?" I ask, as our convoy descends into the hidden facility. "Secure location," Hayes says simply, "one of several we maintain for situations like this." The ramp leads to a vast underground parking area with numerous government vehicles. As soon as we park, Hayes escorts me through a series of security checkpoints, each requiring his biometric verification. "Alex." I hear her voice before I see her. Emma rushes toward me from across the room, and I run to meet her. She crashes into my arms, trembling slightly but very much alive and unharmed. I hold her tight tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. Are you okay? I whisper, pulling back to examine her face. She nods, her eyes red from crying but clear. I'm fine, scared, but fine. They won't tell me much, just that it has something to do with your work. Hayes gestures toward a conference room. If you'll both follow me, we can explain everything. The room is equipped with multiple screens and a long table. As we take seats, Hayes activates one of the displays, showing security footage of our home. The timestamp reads 6:03 p.m. 3 figures in tactical gear approach our front door, disable something near the lock, and enter. This is from your neighbor's security camera, Hayes explains. We had a team en route the moment your alarm was triggered, but they were already inside. Emma squeezes my hand. I was in the kitchen when I heard them break in. I remembered that weird maintenance visit last year when they installed that button under the counter. I hid it and ran to the bedroom closet like the instructions said. I look at her in confusion. What instructions? The paper in the envelope taped behind the button, she says. It said to get to the master bedroom closet and press on the back wall panel. There was a hidden room, Alex. A panic room in our house that I never knew existed. Hayes nods. Standard security protocol for employees with your clearance level. I don't have a clearance level. I protest. Not officially, Hayes says, activating another screen that displays what looks like internal documents from my company. Northstar Analytics has been contracting with various intelligence agencies for over a decade. Your position gave you access to certain datasets that contain embedded intelligence information. I stare at the documents, recognizing some project names, but seeing others I've never encountered. My boss never told me any of this. Need to know basis, Hayes says, and until yesterday you didn't need to know. He brings up another screen showing my recent work activity logs. This algorithm you developed to identify anomalous purchasing patterns, it's exceptionally good at finding hidden signals and noise. So good that when you ran it against the full database, it identified several deeply embedded patterns that were actually tracking markers for foreign operatives. Emma looks at me. What does that mean? It means, Hayes says, that Alex accidentally uncovered a sophisticated intelligence operation, and the people running that operation noticed when their subjects were flagged in our system. He pulls up another screen showing a trace on my phone. They compromised your device at least 2 weeks ago, monitoring your communications, tracking your movements. When you accessed those files yesterday, they knew they needed to move quickly. The reality of our situation hits me like a physical blow. So the break-in at our house, they were looking for any local copies of the data you accessed, Hayes confirms, and possibly you or Emma to use as leverage. Emma's hand tightens around mine. What happens now? Hayes closes the screens and faces us directly. Now we need to figure out exactly what information they were after, and why it was important enough to risk a direct incursion on US soil. And until we do, you'll both remain in protective custody. For how long? I ask. Indefinitely, Hayes says, his expression leaving no room for argument. Your lives depend on it. I look at Emma, seeing the fear in her eyes despite her brave face. Someone broke into our home because of something I stumbled across at work. Something important enough that armed men came looking for it, and federal agents had been watching me for who knows how long. I'll help however I can, I tell Hayes. Just keep Emma safe. Hayes nods. We'll need you to review everything you accessed in the past month. Every query, every file, every result. Somewhere in there is something valuable enough to kill for. As he speaks, more agents enter the room with laptops and equipment. Our new reality is setting in. Our normal lives ended the moment I ran that algorithm at work yesterday. One more thing, Hayes says, his voice dropping slightly. The team that broke into your house, they weren't amateurs. They knew exactly what they were doing and had significant resources. Meaning what? Emma asks. Meaning they won't stop looking, Hayes says, and neither can we. I wake up to the sound of someone knocking on the door of our temporary quarters. Emma stirs beside me on the narrow bed, her eyes fluttering open. For a brief moment, confusion crosses her face before yesterday's events come rushing back. Rise and shine, Agent Hayes calls through the door. We've got work to do. The digital clock on the nightstand reads 6:17 a.m. We've barely slept 4 hours after being debriefed until nearly 2 a.m. I drag myself up, feeling like I've been hit by a truck. 5 minutes, I call back, my voice hoarse. Emma sits up, pushing her tangled hair from her face. This is really happening, isn't it? I kept hoping I'd wake up and we'd be home. I take her hand, squeezing it gently. We'll get through this, I promise. 20 minutes later, we're following Hayes down a sterile hallway to what appears to be a command center. Several agents work at computer stations, while one wall is covered with screens displaying data feeds, surveillance footage, and what looks like personnel files. We've set up a workstation for you, Hayes says, gesturing to a corner desk with dual monitors. We need you to review everything you've accessed in the past month. A young woman approaches with 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need these. I'm Agent Chen, part of the digital forensics team. I accept the coffee gratefully. Thanks. Where do we start? I'm bien. With your login credentials, she says, pulling up a chair. We need to trace every file you've opened, every query you've run. For the next 3 hours, I comb through my work history while Emma sits nearby, answering questions from another agent about our routine, our neighbors, anything unusual she might have noticed in recent weeks. Wait, I say suddenly, staring at the screen. This doesn't look right. Hayes appears at my shoulder. What is it? I point to a series of database queries. These weren't run by me. See the timestamp? 2:15 a.m. last Tuesday. I was home asleep. Someone used your credentials after hours, Agent Chen says, typing rapidly. The IP address is internal to your company network. Can you pull up the security footage from the office that night? Hayes asks. Chen nods, her fingers flying across the keyboard. A moment later, grainy black and white footage appears on one of the screens. The timestamp matches the database query. That's our IT director, Michael Reeves, I say, watching a balding man in his 50s enter my cubicle and sit at my workstation. What's he doing at my desk in the middle of the night? Hayes leans closer to the screen, running very specific queries, it seems. Can you see what files he accessed? I turn back to my workstation and dig deeper into the logs. He was looking at customer purchase patterns in the northeastern region, but specifically focusing on... I pause, squinting at the screen. Wait, these aren't retail customers. These look like government contractors. Alex, Emma calls from across the room. Her voice sounds strained. Can I talk to you for a minute? I cross to where she's sitting with the other agent. Her face is pale. What's wrong? I ask. I just remembered something, she says quietly. Last week, at the grocery store, a man approached me in the parking lot. He asked if I was Emma Mercer supervisor and said he worked with you. When I said yes, he started asking questions about your work schedule when you usually got home. Why didn't you tell me this? My stomach tightens with dread. He had a company ID badge. I thought he was legitimate. She looks up at me, eyes wide. But I got a weird feeling and made an excuse to leave. I forgot about it until now. Hayes, who has followed me over, exchanges a glance with the other agent. Can you describe this man? Tall, maybe 6'2", dark hair, graying at the temples, Eastern European accent, I think. Hayes pulls out his phone and shows Emma a photo. Is this him? She nods, her hand gripping mine tightly. Yes. Who is he? Viktor Petrov. He's a known associate of Russian intelligence. Hayes turns to me. The breach came from inside your company, Alex. We need to go back to those files. Reeves accessed. Back at the workstation, I notice a pattern emerging. All these files have something in common. They're all tagged with a specific project code, KF7392. Hayes goes very still. Are you sure that's the code? I nod. It's on every file he accessed. What does it mean? Hayes gestures to Agent Chen, who immediately leaves the room. When he speaks again, his voice is lower. That's the designation for Operation Kingfisher. It's a long-term counterintelligence operation tracking Russian assets in the United States. The implications hit me like a punch to the gut. My algorithm, it identified these people, didn't it? Not directly, Hayes says, but it found anomalies in their behavior patterns that our standard protocols missed. Your pattern recognition system is exceptionally good at finding needles in haystacks, so I accidentally outed Russian spies. I say, the reality of our situation becoming clearer, and now they want to know what else I might have found. Exactly. And they're willing to go to extreme lengths to find out. Emma's phone suddenly rings, the sound jarring in the quiet room. She pulls it from her pocket, staring at the screen. It's David, she says, referring to my boss. Should I answer? Hayes snatches the phone before she can touch it. No, your boss is compromised. David? I say in disbelief. He's been with the company for 15 years, and feeding information to Russian intelligence for at least 10 of those, Hayes replies grimly. We've suspected for a while, but couldn't prove it. Your algorithm finally gave us the evidence we needed. A loud alarm suddenly blares through the facility. Red lights begin flashing in the hallway. Perimeter breach, Hayes says, drawing his weapon. We need to move. Now. Chaos erupts as agents rush to secure equipment and gather weapons. Hayes grabs my arm with one hand and Emma's with the other, pulling us toward a back exit. The safe house location has been compromised, he shouts over the alarm. We have armored vehicles waiting in the garage level. Stay close to me. We rush through corridors and down stairwells, the sound of gunfire echoing somewhere above us. Emma's face is a mask of terror as we run, but she keeps pace, her hand clutched in mine. The garage level is dimly lit, with several black SUVs idling, doors open. Hayes pushes us toward the nearest one. Get in, he orders. We're halfway to the vehicle when the first explosion rocks the building. The concussion knocks us off our feet. I hit the concrete hard, the wind knocked from my lungs. Alex! Emma screams as gunfire erupts again, closer this time. I scramble to my feet, pulling Emma up with me. We make it to the SUV just as bullets ping against the concrete nearby. Hayes shoves us into the back seat and jumps in after us. Go, go, go! He shouts to the driver. The SUV lurches forward, tires squealing as we accelerate up the exit ramp. Two more vehicles fall in behind us, forming a protective convoy. Through the rear window, I see muzzle flashes in the darkness of the garage. Emma, I say, turning to her. Are you okay? She doesn't answer, and that's when I notice the blood spreading across her left shoulder. She's hit, I yell, panic rising in my throat. Emma's been shot. It's just a graze, she says through gritted teeth, her face pale with shock. I'm okay. Hayes rips open a first aid kit and presses a gauze pad against her shoulder. Apply pressure, he instructs me, handing over the pad while he radios for medical support. As we speed through the night, Emma leaning against me, her blood seeping through the gauze, a terrible realization dawns on me. They knew exactly where we were, I say, meeting Hayes' eyes. They knew about the safe house. They knew about the evacuation protocol. Hayes' expression darkens. I know what you're thinking. Someone on your team is feeding them information, I say, the words hanging in the air between us. We have a leak. Hayes doesn't deny it. Instead, he looks out the window at the city lights blurring past, his jaw set in a hard line. We'll handle it, but first we need to get Emma medical attention and secure a new location. I hold Emma closer, careful of her injured shoulder, and watch the agent's face. For the first time since this nightmare began, I see something that terrifies me more than armed intruders or Russian operatives. I see doubt in Hayes' eyes, and I realize we can't trust anyone, not even the people who are supposed to be protecting us. The military installation is a stark contrast to the underground facility. Concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, and a constant hum of activity. It's been 2 days since Emma was shot, and I've barely left her side. The doctor says she's lucky the bullet only grazed her shoulder, but the memory of her blood soaking through my fingers haunts me every time I close my eyes. You need to rest, Emma says, watching me pace the small medical room where she's recovering. You look terrible. I'm fine, I lie, running a hand through my unwashed hair. How's the pain? Manageable. She adjusts herself in the bed, wincing slightly. Have they found anything yet? Before I can answer, the door opens and Hayes enters. The dark circles under his eyes match mine, but his demeanor remains professional, controlled. We need you, Alex, he says. The tech team has compiled the system access logs you requested. I kiss Emma's forehead. I'll be back soon. Find who did this, she whispers, her eyes hard with determination. I've rarely seen before. The command center is buzzing with activity when we arrive. Multiple screens display data streams, surveillance footage, and what looks like personnel files. Agent Chen nods at me from her workstation. We pulled every access log for the past 6 months, she says, gesturing to her screen. It's a lot to sift through. I crack my knuckles and sit down. Then let's get started. For hours, I lose myself in the data, searching for patterns, anomalies, anything that might reveal our leak. Hayes checks in periodically, bringing coffee and updates on Emma's condition. By early evening, my eyes are burning, but I found something. Hayes, I call out, my voice tense. Look at this. He leans over my shoulder, studying the screen. What am I looking at? Access logs for the classified files related to Operation Operation Kingfisher. See these timestamps? I point to a series of entries. Someone's been accessing these files consistently for months, always between 2 and 4 a.m., always from a terminal inside this facility. Can you identify the user? Hayes asks, his posture stiffening. I scroll through more logs. The credentials belong to Angela Winters. Hayes' face darkens. My assistant. She has the clearance and access to know our movements, our safe houses, I say. The pieces falling into place. She would know exactly when and where to hit us. Hayes pulls out his phone. I need a security team in the command center now. Quietly. While we wait, I dig deeper into Angela's activities. She's been careful, but not careful enough. She accessed the evacuation protocols for the underground facility just hours before the attack. We need to be smart about this, Hayes says, his voice low. If we confront her directly, she might alert her contacts. So, we set a trap, I suggest. Feed her false information and see where it leads. Hayes nods slowly. What do you have in mind? Let's schedule another evacuation. Make it look like we're moving to a new location tomorrow morning. Put it in the system where she'll find it, but actually set up a perimeter to catch whoever shows up. The plan comes together quickly. Hayes' team plants the false evacuation order in the system, scheduling a move to a remote cabin facility at 0600 hours. Then we wait, monitoring Angela's terminal remotely. At 1:42 a.m., the trap springs. Angela enters the command center, thinking it's empty for the night. I watch from a darkened observation room as she sits at her workstation and begins accessing files. She's in. Agent Chen whispers, tracking Angela's movements on her laptop. She's pulling up the evacuation orders. We wait, barely breathing, as Angela copies the coordinates and pulls out a phone. Not her standard-issue government device, but a slim burner phone. She's making a call, Hayes says, signaling to his team. Move in, now. The door to the command center bursts open. Angela jumps to her feet, but there's nowhere to run. In seconds, she's surrounded by armed agents, the burner phone still in her hand. Angela Winters, Hayes says, his voice ice cold. You're under arrest for espionage and treason. Her face remains impassive as they cuff her, but when her eyes meet mine, I see something unexpected, not fear or anger, but pity. The interrogation room is small and stark. I stand behind the one-way glass, watching as Hayes questions Angela. For hours, she says nothing, staring at the wall with practiced indifference. Then, suddenly, she speaks. You have no idea what you're involved in, she says. This goes far beyond what you think. Then enlighten me, Hayes replies. The Russians have been planning this operation for years, she says, leaning forward. They're after the counterintelligence protocols, the entire framework of how we identify and track their operatives. And you've been helping them, Hayes states. She smiles thinly. For a price. But I'm small potatoes, Agent Hayes. The real prize is still out there. Who recruited you? Hayes demands. Angela's eyes flick toward the mirror, as if she knows I'm watching. James Chen. He's been their asset for over a decade. Recruited me 5 years ago when I was drowning in debt after my husband's cancer treatments. The name hits me like a physical blow. James Chen, my colleague. The quiet data analyst, who sits 3 cubicles down from me. The one who always brought donuts on Fridays and helped me troubleshoot code when I was stuck. I burst into the interrogation room. You're lying. Angela's smile widens. Hello, Alex. How's Emma's shoulder? Better, I hope. Hayes signals for me to step outside, but I ignore him. James can't be involved. He doesn't have the clearance level to access those files. No, Angela agrees, but you do. And you trust him, don't you? Enough to share your screen when he asks for help? Enough to leave your workstation unlocked when you go for coffee? The realization makes me feel sick. All those times James had stopped by my desk, asking questions about my algorithm, offering suggestions. Hayes pulls me out of the room. We need to find James. Now. You knew, I accuse. Once we're in the hallway. You knew there was a mole in my company, and you used me as bait. You used Emma as bait. We suspected, Hayes admits, but we didn't know who. Your algorithm gave us the breakthrough we needed. My wife was shot. I shove him against the wall, anger overriding caution. She could have died because you didn't tell us the whole truth. Hayes doesn't fight back. I'm sorry, Alex, truly, but this operation is bigger than any of us. If the Russians get those counterintelligence protocols, dozens of our agents will be exposed. Some will die. Before I can respond, alarms blare throughout the facility. Red lights flash in the corridors. Perimeter breach, Hayes says, drawing his weapon. They're here. We run toward the command center as chaos erupts around us. Soldiers rush past with weapons drawn. Orders are shouted over intercoms. Where's Emma? I demand, grabbing Hayes' arm. I need to get to her. Medical wing is on lockdown, he says. She's safer there than with us. We need to secure the server room. That's what they're after. The journey to the server room is a blur of corridors and security checkpoints. Gunfire echoes from somewhere in the facility. When we reach the heavy steel door of the server room, Hayes punches in a code and places his palm on a scanner. Stay behind me, he orders as the door slides open. The server room is vast, filled with rows of humming equipment. Blue and green lights blink in the dimness. We move cautiously between the towers of servers, weapons ready. Hayes, I whisper. If James is working for the Russians, he'll know about the false evacuation. This could be a diversion to... A scream cuts through the air. A woman's scream. Emma's scream. Emma! I bolt toward the sound, ignoring Hayes' shout to wait. I round a corner of servers and freeze. James Chen stands in the center of the room, one arm wrapped around Emma's throat, the other holding a gun to her head. Blood has soaked through the bandage on her shoulder. Hello, Alex, James says calmly, as if we're meeting in the break room at work. I've been waiting for you. Let her go, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. This is between you and me. James tightens his grip on Emma, making her wince. Actually, it's between me and your friend Agent Hayes. You're just a useful idiot who stumbled into something way over his head. James, I say, taking a careful step forward. We've worked together for 3 years. I know you. This isn't you. He laughs, the sound hollow in the cavernous room. You don't know me at all, Alex. No one does. That's what makes me so good at this. Hayes appears behind me, his weapon trained on James. It's over, Chen. Your handler Angela is in custody. The entire facility is locked down. There's no way out. There's always a way out, James replies. And Angela knew the risks when she signed up, just like I did, just like Emma here is learning about right now. How did you get to her? I ask, desperate to keep him talking while I try to think of a way to save Emma. The medical wing was supposed to be secure. James smiles. I have friends in many places, Alex. I recruited Angela years ago when I realized she had access to Hayes' team. Did you really think she was the only one? My mind races, connecting dots I should have seen before. The IT director accessing my workstation. My boss David being compromised. The man who approached approached Emma at the grocery store. You've been watching me for months, I realize. Ever since I started developing the new algorithm. Longer than that, James corrects. We knew what you were capable of building. We just needed you to access the right data sets so we could see which operatives were compromised. And then you used me to get to the counterintelligence protocols, I say. The full scope of his manipulation becoming clear. James nods. Your security clearance was the golden ticket. All I had to do was convince you to run certain queries, look at certain files, and our team could piggyback on your access. Emma's eyes meet mine, filled not with fear, but with fierce determination. She gives me the slightest nod, and I understand what she's planning. You won't get away with this, I tell James, deliberately drawing his attention. Even if you kill us all, the protocols are already being changed. Your operation is burned. As I speak, Emma suddenly goes limp in James' arms, her full weight dropping unexpectedly. His grip loosens for just an instant, but it's enough. She drives her elbow into his stomach and twists away as Hayes and I both lunge forward. A gunshot echoes through the server room. Someone screams. The world narrows to a single point of focus as I reach for Emma. Then the tactical team bursts through the door behind us, and everything dissolves into chaos. The tactical team moves with practiced precision, weapons raised as they secure the server room. In the chaos, James breaks free of Hayes' grip and bolts toward a side exit. A burst of gunfire follows him, and I see him stumble, clutching his shoulder, but he doesn't fall. Within seconds, he disappears through the door. Emma, I rush to her side as she slumps against a server rack. Are you okay? She nods shakily, her face pale but determined. I'm fine. He didn't hurt me. Just reopen the wound a bit. Hayes barks orders into his radio as medics rush in to attend to Emma. Suspect is wounded but mobile. Full lockdown of all exits. He's heading toward the east wing. How did he get to Emma? I demand, my voice breaking with anger and fear. The medical wing was supposed to be secure. We'll figure that out later, Hayes says grimly. Right now, we need to make sure he doesn't escape with any data. The next few hours pass in a blur of activity. Emma is taken back to medical, this time with a security detail I personally verify. I refuse to leave her side until Hayes appears in the doorway, his expression tense. We've got a lead, he says. James accessed a secure terminal before taking Emma. He downloaded files to an external drive. What files? I ask, squeezing Emma's hand. Operation Kingfisher protocols. And he sent a transmission before we caught Angela. Hayes steps closer, lowering his voice. We think he's heading to a private airfield about 20 miles from here. It's small, mostly used by corporate jets and hobbyists. He's trying to leave the country, Emma says, wincing as she sits up straighter. Hayes nods. We're mobilizing a joint operation with local FBI and military assets to intercept, but you need me. I finish for him. To track him. Your pattern recognition skills could help us anticipate his movements. We have access to traffic cameras and satellite imagery, but we need someone who can spot the anomalies. I look at Emma, torn between staying with her and helping stop James. Go, she says firmly. End this. I'll be fine. 10 minutes later, I'm in the command center, surrounded by screens showing traffic camera feeds, satellite imagery, and maps of the area surrounding the military installation. Agent Chen sits beside me, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she pulls up more data. James knows all our standard protocols, I say, studying the feeds. He won't take a direct route. We've got roadblocks on all major highways, Hayes says from behind me. I shake my head. He won't use highways. Look for back roads, service routes. I turn to Chen. Can you show me all vehicle movements within a 5-mile radius in the last hour? She nods, bringing up a new display that shows dots representing cars moving along roads. Most follow predictable patterns, main roads, regular speeds, but my eyes catch something odd. There, I point to a single dot moving along what appears to be a maintenance road that runs parallel to the highway. That vehicle is maintaining exactly 43 miles per hour. Not 45, not 40, exactly 43. Why is that significant? Hayes asks. It's a prime number, I explain. James and I used to joke about prime numbers being the perfect speed to avoid attention. Not so fast you get pulled over, not so slow you look suspicious, and oddly specific enough that it's unlikely to be coincidental. Hayes immediately radios the information. All units, we have a possible target vehicle on the service road running parallel to Highway 16 heading east. Approach with caution. Suspect is armed and dangerous. He's heading south now, I say, watching the dot turn onto another back road. He's zigzagging to avoid the main routes, but he's still moving toward the airfield. For the next 40 minutes, I track James's movements through the maze of back roads and service routes, predicting his turns before he makes them. It's like seeing into his mind, understanding the logic of his escape route. He's approaching the airfield from the west side. I say finally. There's a service entrance there that's less monitored. Hayes is already on the radio, coordinating the tactical teams. All units converge on the west entrance of Ridgeline Airfield. Maintain perimeter. Do not engage until all assets are in position. I watch on the satellite feed as black dots representing our vehicles surround the small airfield. A small plane sits on the tarmac, its engines already running. That's his extraction, Hayes says. Russian diplomatic plane, technically not subject to our jurisdiction. If he makes it on board, I begin. He's gone, Hayes finishes. And so is all the intelligence data he stole. The tension in the command center is palpable as we watch the operation unfold through body cameras worn by the tactical team. James's car approaches the service gate, slowing as he notices it's locked. He gets out, limping slightly, his shoulder dark with blood. He's wounded worse than we thought, I observe. Still dangerous, Hayes warns. James cuts the lock with bolt cutters from his trunk and pushes through the gate. He's halfway to the plane when the tactical team emerges from their hiding positions, surrounding him with weapons drawn. For a moment he freezes, then slowly raises his hands. The encrypted drive dangles from a lanyard around his neck. It's over, I whisper, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Hayes claps my shoulder. Thanks to you. The next few days are a whirlwind of debriefings, medical checkups for Emma, and endless questions from various intelligence agencies. James is held in a high-security facility, the encrypted drive recovered intact. We need your help one more time, Hayes says on the third day, placing the drive on the table between us. Our tech team can't crack his encryption, but we think you might be able to. I stare at the small device that contains enough classified information to compromise dozens of operations and endanger countless lives. I'll try. It takes me 14 hours of continuous work, applying everything I know about James's thinking patterns and coding habits. By the time I break through the final layer of encryption, my eyes are burning and my fingers are cramped, but the files are open. My God, Hayes breathes, looking over my my shoulder at the screen. This is bigger than we thought. The drive contains not just the Operation Kingfisher protocols, but details of a vast network of Russian operatives embedded throughout government agencies, defense contractors, and technology companies. Names, locations, contact protocols, everything needed to dismantle the entire operation. James was higher up the chain than we realized, Hayes explains, as analysts begin processing the information. This isn't just about counterintelligence. This is their entire North American network. Within hours, a massive coordinated operation launches across the country. Dozens of Russian assets are taken into custody. Safe houses are raided. Communication channels are shut down. A week later, Emma and I sit across from Hayes in a conference room, our bags packed and waiting by the door. We've prepared new identities for you both, he says, sliding a folder across the table. New names, new backgrounds, new location. You'll be relocated to a small town in Oregon. Nice place, good schools. Emma and I exchange glances. Schools? I ask. Hayes looks confused. For the future. It's a good place to raise kids. Emma takes my hand under the table, squeezing gently. We hadn't told anyone yet, but somehow Hayes knows. I'm pregnant, Emma says quietly. Found out during the medical exams after. Everything. Hayes nods. Congratulations. All the more reason to accept our relocation offer. Start fresh. Somewhere safe. I open the folder, looking at the driver's licenses with our new faces, but different names. New social security cards. New life history. And if we don't want to disappear? I ask. If we want to stay who we are? Hayes leans back, his expression serious. That's your choice. But James worked with people who are still out there. People who might want revenge, or who might see you as a loose end to tie up. Emma places her hand on her stomach, a protective gesture that makes my heart ache. The baby changes things, she admits. I close the folder and slide it back across the table. We appreciate the offer, but no, we're not running. We're not hiding. This is our life, and we're not letting James or anyone else take it from us. Hayes looks surprised. Are you sure? This isn't just about you anymore. We're sure, Emma says firmly. We'll take precautions, but we're not disappearing. Hayes respects our decision, though I can tell he thinks we're making a mistake. Within 2 weeks, we're back home, our actual home, with new security systems installed and regular check-ins from Hayes' team. I return to work with a new security clearance and a new understanding of what my company actually does. My algorithm is implemented across multiple intelligence platforms, strengthening our ability to identify hidden patterns and potential threats. Life slowly returns to something resembling normal. Emma's pregnancy progresses, the nursery takes shape, and the memory of those terrifying days begins to fade, until 6 months later, when I collect the mail and find a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside is a single sheet of paper with 5 words printed in the center. See you soon, old friend. My blood runs cold as I call Hayes. His voice is tense when he answers. James escaped federal custody 3 days ago, he says before I can even tell him about the note. We were about to call you. That night, I install additional security cameras around our house and check the locks twice before coming to bed. Emma watches me from under the covers, her hand resting on her now prominent belly. He's coming back, isn't he? She asks quietly. I climb into bed beside her, placing my hand over hers to feel the baby kick. Probably. Are you scared? I consider lying, then think better of it. Yes, but not like before. This time I know what we're facing. This time we're ready. Emma leans her head against my shoulder. Do you think we made the right choice? Staying ourselves instead of taking new identities? I think about the life we've built, the baby on the way, the truth of who we are. Yes, I say finally. Some things are worth fighting for. As we lie there in the darkness, I know James is out there somewhere, planning his next move. But this time, I'll be ready. This time, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. And when he comes, because he will come, I'll be waiting.